All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the next episode in the Genshin VA drama saga. And of course, we're sort of all firmly established at this point. We all fundamentally sort of understand what's going on here with these VAs. Essentially, we're going ahead. We're seeing a lot of them act very irrationally. A lot of details have been exposed about the strike. It's not really even about AI anymore. It's about joining the union. And there's just been a lot of double speak, double talk, deception, lying through omission, a lot of things going on that have painted the entire strike in a very, very, very bad light. We've been keeping up with it with a lot of videos on the channel, and of course, Hirohei has been as well. So I just want to see what this one is all about. I do know that a certain VA, I do believe the voice actor of Keqing, Kaylee Mills, has deleted a lot of things because she has been, let's be honest here, popping the fuck off with some of the most absurd and ridiculous responses and takes we've been seeing in the space. So let's just go ahead, get right on into it, and see what it's all about.
Thank you for joining me once again. It has now been a week of straight coverage regarding the situation that seems to keep on going. And if you're not familiar with this situation, I've got an entire playlist dedicated to what's been going on, so please consider watching some or all those videos.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh my god.
I will have it linked in the description for you. And a really quick side note, you can see the first video that kicked us all off was actually 3 weeks ago. Gotta admit, as bad as things looked 3 weeks ago, I didn't think they would proliferate to this level. Crazy stuff. But now, assuming everyone is familiar with what's going on here, we've got an update from voice actress Kaylee Mills, who has made a number of statements that has gotten her in the news time and time again throughout the last week. And here I was for a second thinking I might actually have a completely different topic to talk about today regarding Hero Aka. There is something regarding Hero Aka that I still do want to talk about, but then this happened.
Yeah, so Kaylee Mills is, if for some additional context on her and the role that she's played across the past week, she was one of the first people dumping all over on public social media, dumping all over Jacob Takanashi, the new voice actor for Kanish, who replaced somebody who was essentially striking and not working for 6 months, striking out of solidarity for other union members. He basically had a voice for only one patch, the old VA, John Patnude. He got replaced by Jacob Takanashi because they're trying to obviously integrate Kanish into more updates. And yeah, that's kind of like what happened.
See, it looks like Kaylee Mills has actually deleted her entire Twitter account. Indeed, if you do go over to that account, it says this account does not exist.
You can probably tell who's right or who's wrong in this circumstance. And the fact that you can't see what she wrote anymore kind of would lead you to believe that maybe she was being a little bit fucked up. Maybe a little bit.
Who knows if this is a temporary action or something that she plans on permanently maintaining.
How can a VA not work for 6 months and still be fine financially? That's the question. When you have as much of a work history as some of these VAs, when you have like links to the anime space like these VAs, let me just bring up something a little bit hilarious when it comes to this whole situation. This is Kaylee Mills. You can see she's got a lot of roles in a lot of different games, in a lot of different media. She even does stuff in anime too. So this could be, thinking about it this way. This could be one of the ways that they're able to sustain themselves, right? And kind of like talk down on other people who are working during the strike. Yeah, they have a lot of prior work, probably a lot of connections. Anime, I don't think is covered, right? Then we got John Patnude, right? The guy who was striking and got replaced. Kind of a similar thing going on over here, isn't it? A lot of roles, a lot of prior work. Not a huge amount of prior work, but still a decent amount of things going on over here. And now we got Jacob Takanashi. You're going to see a total of 5 roles for him. Yeah, but he's doing 3 roles for one project. So he's kind of like literally just voicing a bunch of NPCs. Literally like just a bunch of NPCs, minor characters, and then of course Kanish. And then we're going ahead and we're just dumping all over him for taking on a role when literally he doesn't really even have a career yet. And the situation does get worse. She said even worse things. Kaylee Mills originally said, "You're just a clout chaser. You should have taken this role uncredited. Look at you like trying to take advantage of the situation. What a terrible person." That's basically the gist of what she said, but it got worse from there.
As we have seen a voice actor who got backlash previously deactivate his entire Blue Sky account, but then come back after like a day or two, except putting it in some kind of protected mode. So I guess only time will tell if Kaylee returns to Twitter, and when that would be, if ever. But before she left, there were a number of statements made that were very interesting, specifically late last night, providing some apparent insight into the way SAG-AFTRA, the union, operates. This statement being referred to as kind of a mask-off moment. People saying, and there it is. Before we take a look at that, for anyone who hasn't seen yesterday's video, this was a statement made on April 1st by Kaylee Mills, which was already getting her a ton of backlash, and just to be clear, she was already getting quite a bit of backlash throughout the last number of days over other statements that she had made, but this was like the most recent one.
This is how she described him taking on the role. This is one small job for him, not his full-time work. This is Karina's bread and butter. He's done very little VA work, which we've looked at, right? Which we've proven. So it isn't what he's relying on to pay the bills. Apparently, she's also an accountant and has seen his his family's finances. She is also an accountant, has seen his finances, audited all of his income and his bills, and she's able to make a statement about this. For all we know, his wife's the breadwinner. All right, now we've downplayed his career. Then we proceed to call him basically a bum in the relationship. Then his wife's making all the money and he's just like sitting on the couch doing nothing. And then we talk about how they bought a house recently. How did she even know all these things? And like, what leg does she have to stand on? Like, if you just bought a house, don't you need income to like not get it mortgaged and foreclosed in the... That's kind of like how it works, right? Like you probably want to make sure you have additional income now that you have the house. It's just, there's so much weird stuff going on in this statement that you have to wonder, like, who is this person actually? To basically like pocket watch, family watch, house watch somebody like this. It's so weird. It's so strange.
Really set things off once again, where she said, "This is one small job for him, Jacob Takanashi, not his full-time work. It's Karina's bread and butter. He's done very little VO work, so it isn't what he's relying on to pay the bills. For all we know, his wife's the breadwinner. Either way, they bought a house recently, so I doubt it was a necessary job for survival." Yeah, absolutely insane that she thought that was an appropriate and good thing to post. There is more context to what led up to this tweet and what happened after it, but I'm not going to rehash all of that because we just talked about that yesterday. The reason I'm bringing this up now is because perhaps this is a part of why she deactivated. She was getting a ton of backlash for that tweet and then actually deleted that tweet. And now the whole account's deleted, but let's take a look at that comment from last night that I mentioned. The one that people are once again referring to as like a mask-off moment. You can see this person asking Kaylee Mills, why does no one ever address...
I'm just thinking about that past tweet that she had. Isn't there like, shouldn't you at least have like somebody look at that? If you're gonna post something like that volatile, maybe like have somebody look at that first and then be like, oh, am I being like unreasonable here? Am I being a little bit too crazy? Is this gonna get me in some hot water? And I feel like the only person she showed that prior tweet to talking about his house was maybe like Karina, Paimon's voice actor. Because I think any other person in that situation would have been like, yeah, you probably shouldn't post this. You probably shouldn't talk about this. This is a little bit fucked up. And the fact that she just went forward with it, nobody said anything. How? Why? What is going on?
Asking Kaylee Mills, why does no one ever address, in this context, no one is likely referring to voice actors from SAG-AFTRA specifically or their defenders. Why does no one ever address the fact that bothers people the most? The fact that it's end up in a US-based monopoly and making employing future non-union, non-US-based VAs hell. What is this US main character syndrome? And why is it fine to be a scab for Nikki when others strike it?
This is like one of those tweets that she should not have responded to. This is like one of those times when she should have put the gag order on herself and just ignored the comment, much like how every other VA in this situation has just ignored the comment. Some of the VAs, like Koi Dao, the voice for Albedo, he was like, he made like a public Twitter post, right? About like basically defending the strike, defending SAG-AFTRA. He got some very pointed questions about this topic, and then he just stopped responding in the thread. That was like still bad. That was like still a bad move, but it's probably better than whatever the fuck Kaylee just said over here.
To which Kaylee Mills made this response. SAG quote unquote winning the strike means that their contracts will all have AI protections going forward. It does not make every game union. Also, I've worked on several union games with international talent. A game going union does not bar that talent from working. Technically, here's the really important part, technically no union actor should work non-union at all, but we do. All the time. It's always been that way in VO.
Does anyone have a link to Zach Aguilar? We'll pull it up in just a second. But Zach was just talking about, the voice for Aether, was just talking about how he wasn't allowed to work on some projects. His agent from SAG-AFTRA told him he couldn't because the gays were not union. And so right now, there are currently VAs that are basically getting outlawed from working on certain projects that are, you know, probably very, very, very good, great international opportunities. But because they're not union, they're now being barred from them. So it really does seem like a lot of the story over here, specifically from what Kaylee said, it's not even aligning. Oh, we got the link over here.
Offers from other video games, very, very high profile.
Yep, high profile video games
have wanted to cast me, and I'm friends with a lot of the directors. And
a lot of
the
personal
last one here,
relationships.
Are you working on this? Are you working? You know, are you like? Would you like to work on this game? And I'll just respond like, yeah, dude, of course, because I'm friends with these directors, right? I'm like,
He's one of the most tenured VAs in the space that has done a bunch of voices for games and anime. Like those two industries really, really, really like mesh together in terms of like who they share across their dubbing. So yeah, he's probably in touch with a lot of directors for a lot of different games. For really, really successful ones too.
yeah, I would absolutely love to work on it. I'm an actor. Why would I say that I don't want to work on a project?
And one thing I've said about VA work is that the better you are at VA work, it's like an exponential increase in like your potential. Right? Okay, this is probably the wrong. Because think about it this way. The better you are at VA work, the less takes you need to do, the less time you need to spend in the studio to get what the voice director wants, right? Because you're just getting it right in the first time. And so essentially, the better you are, the more jobs you're able to take on and the more money you're able to make. And the fact that they're like denying him the opportunity to kind of like, get his name out there even more. When you're in the high profile games, people will hear you and then they'll suggest you for other roles because you're in the high profile one. And so essentially what these SAG-AFTRA strike, what these individuals, his agents, are doing is just limiting him from all of these opportunities.
That's stupid.
To grow his career even more.
So I'm like, yeah, of course I'd love to work on it. And then, 10 minutes later, I have my agent calling me up because it all goes through my agency. And my agent's like, hey, you can't work on this game
because it's not union.
Because they haven't signed the agreement. So basically,
and so yes, the VAs are now being held hostage by SAG-AFTRA, not able to work on high-profile games, losing a bunch of opportunities, a lot of ways to, increase like their profile, bolster their portfolio, be eligible for even more roles in the future. And yeah, the union is basically being a mafia right now. Unless you sign all these agreements, become union, and we get to like limit your hiring, we're going to limit your hiring on union actors and just not let you seek out these high profile talents that you want. It's the opposite of what a union is supposed to do. Yeah, they're making it worse.
It's not necessarily quote unquote fine, but it is still very different from taking an existing role from someone who vacated that role, withholding work for AI protections. That part, of course, likely referring to Jacob Takanashi getting hired for the role of Keqing. Important context, the previous VA had seemingly not worked that role for a period of around 6 months. So Hoyo waits like
Jacob Patnud
6 months to fill the role. Half a year later, they're like, okay, we got to move on.
And I think half a year was more than enough time. Let's be honest. Let's frame the situation here for John Patnud and Keqing. Bro voiced him for one patch, I do believe in 5.0, and then refused to voice him moving forward. He has only had one speaking role in one patch, the release of Natlan, and then nothing else since.
Part of this reads, that's why you don't see anyone calling out any of the actors announcing their new non-union roles. It's because while as much solidarity as possible helps the cause, no one really expects everyone to be perfect allies.
That's why you don't see anyone calling out any of the actors announcing their new non-union roles. Okay, so they're just breaking more rules. But now we got Zach Aguilar over here, the voice of Aether, one of the biggest VAs, talking about how he is literally getting restricted from taking on these non-union roles. Guess it's going both ways right now. I guess Zach Aguilar, because he's such a popular VA with so much of a track record, he's being used as a bargaining chip with these companies, and they're essentially gonna play like keep away with him, like basically hide him away until you become a union game, so you won't be able to actually access the top tier talent.
7 hours ago, this got her posted once again on our Genshin Impact, that post becoming another top post over on that subreddit with the title "There It Is," saying she admitted they've been breaking the rules and are now expecting Hoyo to fix their mistakes. And also, apparently many of them have been making union rates. So some people have been misleading the community about that too.
So we had Paimon's VA basically talking about how when games join the union actors will just get like paid more money because like the union will guarantee certain rates for like certain roles. And apparently that was just all a little bit of bullshit, because the union VAs that worked on Genshin were still making the union rate. And so they probably brought that into negotiations. Hey, my union ensures that I get XYZ for XYZ amount of roles worked for this type of role. And Hoyo granted that to them. But Paimon's VA is coming in and then talking about how people aren't making what they're supposed to be, that they would under the... It's just two conflicting sides. People are just saying entirely different things. And then you just look at all of it in a vacuum and you're just like, this is so stinky. Everyone's lying in this situation.
A second screenshot provided in that post reading from Jared, "Hey Kaylee, I understand the union was not enforcing the Global 1 rule, but did MiHoYo negotiate you/other union VAs with union rates? I apologize if the question is intrusive, but it's one variable brought up in arguments that I can't really verify." Kaylee apparently responding, saying, "Hi, yes, although the game isn't on you, many of us are making the union rate."
I just gotta say, whoever is like in charge of SAG-AFTRA and like in charge of like the agents and like managing their talent, they're so fucking bad at their job, it's unbelievable. What really should have happened at the start to like mitigate whatever sort of fucking disaster this is that SAG-AFTRA should have like gotten somebody to just like create a group chat between like fucking Kaylee Mills, Paimon's VA, their agents, and then just said, shut the fuck up, all of you. Just stop talking. And the fact that these people are like, we're going off for an entire week, just sinking the ship of whatever this strike was, completely unmoderated, saying whatever the fuck they wanted. It's like, surely, like, you should have used your union power here and like your you know, the kind of like the mafia power over here to just tell them to stop tweeting, stop making public statements, stop making TikTok videos, because at this point, it's just every action that they took just made it worse. And at some point, it's easier and better to just not do anything, to just not respond. That should have been identified at least maybe like 1 or 2 days into the ordeal. And the fact that it took until like now for her to like just stop typing, stop talking, and delete her Twitter is insane. You should have realized after maybe like the first public backlash just from shit-talking Kenichi, the new Kenichi VA, they should have just both apologized, shut the fuck up, and this probably would not have blown up to even like 10% of where it is if they had just apologized at the very onset of this and then stopped from there. And the fact that nobody got them to do that is just, it just shows complete incompetency on behalf of SAG-AFTRA, because you surely have some level of sway to get them to do that. If you're able to, you know, to basically hold Zach Aguilar hostage, which is what they're doing right now.
Comment in that post reading, "I really don't want to defend a billion-dollar company who could quite clearly defend itself without my input."
The funniest thing about this is that Hoyo literally did nothing. Hoyo has literally done nothing, not made a single statement, not interacted in any way regarding this, and like they are like the undefeated champions. This is what I meant. They literally did nothing. It's like the whole like Sun Tzu Art of War thing. Like it's like if your enemy is like fucking themselves in the ass, just don't do anything and then you'll win the battle. I probably abridged that wrong. That's probably not the fully accurate summary, but you get the gist. Like if the enemy is in the middle of defeating themselves through their own inability to like fucking think properly, just let them do it. Just do nothing and still win.
But are you telling me said company had been paying in union rates despite being non-union? Had formally stepped in and changed an unpaid actor's studio when they learned they weren't being paid?
That was Paimon's VA. They actually helped her move from Formosa, I do believe, to a different studio, so that she could get paid for the role. And then Paimon's VA is crashing out.
That likely referring to the whole Karina Formosa thing. We actually discussed that at the end of yesterday's video too. Had been patiently delivering unvoiced events and stories at the expense of users within nearly a year at this point.
I'm not gonna lie, the lack of English dub for Honkai Star Rail 3.0 was one of the most damaging things possible for that patch. You had a 10-hour story, and then like at least a couple hours of it is actually unvoiced. It still wouldn't save the story. Amphorius would have still been bad, right? But it got made worse by the lack of dub for several hours of the story, for several characters that are extremely important to the arc. It's kind of like, it dug a deeper grave, 100%.
Had signed on different studios with AI protections written in their contracts without any fuss. And they want me to believe them that this company is a problem? Like, come on. Hoyo has better worker rights and takes...
They also have regulations in CN for AI protection.
...care of all its employees better than what their union, who to everyone working with,
also in JP, the other dub,
an actual good union looks on in horror at, could do to represent them. But dang, why is Shara angry and saying they've been underpaid? Why is Karina going off the rails and telling people they need Genshin to be union to get union pay? What the frick is going on? Yeah, if they're referring to that Shara Kirby or Shara Kirby person, that was hilarious too.
Oh yeah, she's so cooked, it's unbelievable. I still genuinely believe that Shara Kirby, the voice for Candace, who was seen on Blue Sky, just like fucking cussing out the like she literally says fuck Hoyo disrespectfully. My headcanon is that she was drunk. She was drunk when she posted all of these Blue Sky messages. 1,000,000%. Like she was just crashing the fuck out while like either on a Xanax or like meth or something like that. I can't even fathom why somebody would just like nosedive their career like this. Who is going to want watch her after this. The best part about this, I'm not sure if Hirohei is going to show it. She had a final tweet on the matter where she was like, I might delete the past couple of messages because I want to keep this page semi-professional. She literally talks about one of her former employers, or soon-to-be former employer. She's like, fuck Hoyo, disrespect. I mean, at a certain point, you kind of got to be like, you gotta think at least a little bit. That's why I'm saying she's drunk.
That whole blue sky rant was insane. Icing on the cake is how I got that Share Kirby comment from 2 weeks ago on my video initially talking about all the SAG after backlash, how their strike was failing.
Oh, man. She probably drunk when she wrote this one, too.
Trying to say that my video was misinformation and basically telling me not to make
She looks like she likes wine.
videos on the topic. Yeah, that aged terribly, didn't it? But now here's what's really important. Going over specific policies and what can be seen as contradictions within the union and the rhetoric of this specific clique of voice actors. Because as Kaylee Mills said, technically no union actor should work non-union at all, but we do, all the time.
So suddenly, it's just, I don't know, like, how you wrote this and thought people would be okay with it. Yeah, we just break the rules sometimes, but it's like perfectly fine. Those rules and stuff that we're talking about that other people, yeah, we just break rules all the time. At a certain point, somebody's gonna read this and just be like, does anything even matter then if you're just breaking all your rules all the time? What's the point of anything when all you do is just break the rules, openly admit them, and then say why it's not a big deal? Like, that's how people just like stop caring about the rules that you have, when you're just constantly breaking them and then going through like some loophole about why it's always okay when you do it.
Always been that way in VO. You can see on sagaftra.org the Global One rule, something which we've discussed plenty of times in the past, but just for clarity, let's read it one more time. Global Rule 1 states, no member shall render any services or make an agreement to perform services for any employer who has not executed a basic minimum agreement with the union, which is in full force and effect in any jurisdiction in which there is a SAG-AFTRA national collective bargaining agreement in place. This provision applies worldwide. Add the subtext. Simply put, a SAG-AFTRA member must always work under a union contract around the globe.
Yeah, so nobody was ever supposed to work on Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail or ZZZ, any of these games.
According to the actions that Kaylee Mills has explained, this can be seen as quite a double standard, but things get even worse. Hopping over to sagaftra.org once again on a different page, we can take a look at specifically what's called Union Myth 10. They provide a quote that reads, as a union member, I'm not allowed to audition for non-union work. And they say, wrong. Fact. You are allowed to audition for non-union work. However, you cannot work without a union contract. Audition, get the part, you're likely to stand out in a non-union crowd. Once you're offered the role, explain that you can't do the role unless it's union.
Isn't this one of the most fucked up things you've ever seen? Hide the fact that you're union, audition for the role, get it, make sure that the hiring pipeline for that role gets completely culled because they think they have the VA that they want, then go in and basically gank them out of nowhere with like this stipulation that you already know you have the role and that you can't work it unless the game becomes union. And so you just start strong arming the voice director and the game to become union, or they're gonna lose like weeks worth of like their casting process, weeks, maybe months of like their casting process. Like all the time they spent getting you is like wasted. They've already like, you know, told the other VAs to like go home or whatever, or that they're not going to have the role. Basically, you're forcing them to do a cost benefit analysis that they don't want to fucking do at that point. And you're just like, hey, if you don't want to deal with all the bullshit of rehiring a person, you can just, you know, become union, you know what I mean? It's like literally like a poison pill put into their work. Like it's like an infiltration, a Trojan horse, a virus. You look at this and you just think, this sounds like a disease. It literally sounds like a disease.
Let the producer know that going union is not nearly as complicated or expensive as they might imagine. Staff is right here in Texas to help with the paperwork.
They have a dedicated fucking team. They have like, hey, did we just fuck over that game? Hey, get him over here. Hey, let's help him out a little bit. You know what I mean? They have a dedicated team for like the games and the companies they fuck over with their deceptive tactics. It's like, it's all in-house, baby.
That arguably contradicts the Global One rule. However, even if someone wants to make the argument that it's technically not, in that case, it still comes off as a rather scummy move, but it still gets even worse. We can see the text below that reading, fact, you are encouraged to audition for non-union work because 1, non-union producers get a chance to see amazing talent they wouldn't otherwise see, 2. When you land that job and get a union contract, you turn that non-union production union. 3. You can help organize more work by sharing information about non-union producers or companies with union staff so they can inform them about our contracts. It all comes off as rather underhanded, shady, and manipulative.
Oh, I don't even think you used the right words for that one, Hero. Hey, I'm gonna be entirely real here. I think you could have used way more aggressive language over there. It's a fucking disease. It's a disease that they're trying to infect every single project with, so that they can coerce them into becoming union. When it's like, there's no real tangible benefit being provided here. It's not like a symbiotic relationship where both sides benefit from the partnership. It's just parasitic. It's entirely parasitic.
This seems to be what's been basically playing out with Hoyoverse. A number of the VAs who've been working with Hoyoverse have been a part of the union, and they were fine accepting that work for X amount of time, in some cases, a number of years. But then all the AI stuff popped up, and they apparently saw this as a great opportunity to try and manipulate a narrative of needing AI protections, but in reality, it seems like the real goal was trying to flip Hoyoverse into being a solely union project.
Don't you guys feel betrayed? Don't you guys feel like you have been lied to for like the past year and a half about every single thing these VAs have said, every single VA talking about how it was just for AI? And this is the thing. I don't know how much blame of it should go to the VAs, how much blame of it should go to SAG-AFTRA. Basically, I don't know any VA who wasn't on record saying that they didn't support the strike. I feel like every single VA was saying that they supported the strike. But now that we know the strike was a lie, were all of those VAs just lying? Or were they simply misinformed and manipulated by SAG-AFTRA themselves into supporting the strike and not really knowing what the full purpose of it was? I feel like that's sort of like the next topic over here. Were these VAs being intentionally malicious, or were they just misled by SAG-AFTRA into supporting this strike without knowing the full details of it? Maybe we'll never know. But I'm going to be real here. It's just not a good look for anybody who was involved in this entire thing.
This goes back to what many people have been saying about the whole AI protection thing, really looking like a Trojan horse, so to speak. All of this amplified even further with how, as we just went over, a number of these VAs have even been disparaging Hoyoverse. In the case of Kirby, even saying F Hoyoverse, and that's putting it lightly. She said also a lot more than that. When, if anything, Hoyoverse has been extremely kind to these people. And what about the people who've been supporting these voice actors? They've essentially been getting used like tools from these people too.
Y'all got tricked. I don't know what else to say. Y'all got fucking tricked. Y'all got fooled. Hey, I'm one of them, dude. I don't know anybody who is just openly against the strike, right? I don't know a lot of people, a lot of CCs, a lot of even like chatters or like YouTube commenters who were openly against the strike. I don't know very many of them, and we all got tricked.
Gaslit and manipulated, trying to get these people to go around and support their agenda without question, and then when people look into it and begin questioning things, they get treated terribly as well. It's been a terrible look for the SAG-AFTRA VAs. All this has backfired tremendously, but that's something we all surely already know by now. So let me know what you think about those policies and the updates regarding Kaylee Mills herself, the statement that she made late last night, and then the deletion of her entire account shortly after. In the next part of this video, we'll now take a look at what our CN bros have to say more recently about all this stuff.
Oh boy, we got more CN bros.
A post from 22 minutes ago on our Genshin Impact. Keqing is back at it once again, saying, CN Billy community reaction to newest VA drama. Keqing VA tweet, SAG-AFTRA's quote-unquote encouragement, saying, yeah, people in CN really want to see how you react to them now. This whole note passing thing, at CN they described this as a message in a bottle. I think they also said something about like paper notes, right? Like passing paper notes is really becoming a meme. Anyways, I put the two different vids/topics together, and here they are. Please don't nuke me. Disclaimer, the comments do not necessarily reflect the entirety of the CN community's opinion, and this first section seems to be specifically about Keqing ENVA tweet. That being this tweet, which we discussed yesterday and I showed in this video a few times too. The one, once again, that said, this is one small job for him, not his full-time work. It's Karina's bread and butter. He's done very little VO work, so it isn't what he's relying on to pay the bills. For all we know, his wife's the breadwinner. Either way, they bought a house recently, so I doubt it was a necessary job for survival.
This is still one of the worst tweets I've ever seen. This is still legitimately one of the worst tweets I've ever seen, directed to somebody who is married, just bought a house. Apparently, she knew that. I don't think any of us did. I don't know how she knew that. It's really weird that she knew that. And also 2 small children, 2 infants, 2 toddlers. Yeah, let's just talk about a guy making a career, making money when he has 2 kids in a house. Nobody is going to like this.
Here's what the CN community has to say about that. I feel so bad for EN dub players. Not only they had to play with mute characters, but they now have to see their favorite characters get recast because of this whole drama.
Hey, I'm pretty sure, this is the thing, I'm pretty sure most people are excited at the opportunity to see every VA in this situation involved in this recast. I think people are going to be celebrating, popping fucking champagne when Keqing's VA gets recast, when Paimon's VA gets recast, when Candace gets... they're going to be celebrating. Don't worry.
Well, the bright side of it is a lot of people seem like they would be eager to get those recasts if they do happen at this point in time. Let me recall. What were some reasons that CN VAs flamed recently? One was flamed because the character skin was too expensive. Some were playing the wrong game. Some showed their affection for a character.
I love this moment of like self-reflection. I love this moment of self-reflection from CN where they're like, man, we're over here getting pissed at VAs for like dumb fucking reasons like this. And like EN is only getting pissed at VAs when they're like talking about like fucking ruining somebody's life. Like when they're actually doing bad things. Maybe this is like, because this situation has like bled into like international waters to such a high degree, maybe CN is going to like start behaving better because of this. Where they're just like, man, we're out here, we're fighting for like bullshit reasons. Like, why are we even doing this anymore, right? Like, why are we freaking the fuck out like this? Like, why? Just look at what's going on in EN. They're actually raising a ruckus for a good reason. Maybe we should start doing that too. I do feel like this is almost like a moment for a tonal shift. It's like a second awakening, for CN.
Compared to EN/JP drama, the reasons in CN are like child's play. The EN VAs are so strange. They're acting like Hoyo is begging them, and only them to voice the characters. Yeah, talk about an ego. This is also a messed up thing in CN ACG community, anime comic games community, I think. Some people like to compare everything with their fantasized foreign world to hate on CN stuff. Keqing, combating evil, Keqing ENVA. As long as there's enough Mora, it's money in Genshin Impact for those who don't play, I can even go against the Academia, which if I recall is like the main government of the region Sumeru. April Fool's Day's passed.
This dude Hiro Hay is like talking like he doesn't play the game. I bet bro plays Genshin Impact every single day. He's like, he said that way too casually to not be like a player. And he was like pretending that it like wasn't that it he looked it up. Nah, he plays this fucking game like crazy.
Why are these fools still wandering around? We're almost at Snezhnia, next region. It's normal to have more fools than usual. Note, the CN name for the Fatui shares the same word as fool. The unions truly did recruit a batch of talented workers. It's gotta be sarcastic there.
Like I said in some of the prior videos, only thing that this situation, the VA strike has done, is it's basically ensured that no international project ever takes on SAG-AFTRA voice actors again. That is probably the one main takeaway from this entire debacle, is that these games from Japan, these games from CN, all of these different developers, they will be blacklisting the fuck out of these voice actors and blacklisting the fuck out of this union, because I don't think anybody, fuck it, probably some US games are just not going to want to deal with SAG-AFTRA either, if I'm being entirely real with you. They might just get blacklisted from the video game industry as a whole. This just looks like a fucking mess.
This is reminding me of the ancient days when Genshin CNVAs were being doxxed. We need harsher punishment for doxing. Dang, did the VAs catch a bullet for Dawei or something? How are they like this?
That's implying that Hoyo is being way too nice to these VAs. And at this point, I'm like inclined to agree. I'm pretty sure the only reason why Hoyo was so nice to these VAs in the first place was the fact that the public backlash from like recasting roles, replacing them, all that stuff would have been too high because of like the positive reinforcement of the community for the strike. But after this whole Keniche thing, I think the dam has burst wide open. I think it's gonna be like Moses parting the Red Sea. Like, it's just I think everyone's gonna be gone. I'm pretty sure right now, like, the voice director in EN is working overtime, just like recasting like 40 different roles. And you know what? Do it. Go for it. Nobody supports this strike anymore. Nobody does.
It's probably just troublesome to recast. There's going to be too much work. Keniche was able to get recast because he's recent. It's not that easy. EN strikes don't follow protocol. It'll be hard for the company unless we find a new one and recast everything. Doxing. Isn't this illegal? Can't Keniche's new VA sue them?
I mean, they probably... Kaylee Mills probably knows where his house is. They probably sent him a pipe bomb of confetti.
The amount of crazy VAs at the EN community? Dang. Good thing I don't use EN. As a Keqing stan, I'll be so sad. I probably should have said this sooner for anyone who doesn't know, but Keqing's VA is Kaylee Mills. Maybe I said that earlier. I don't remember at this point. My
Don't worry, I said it for you, buddy boy.
bad. Wow, this is becoming a daily report, huh? At this rate, Hoyo surely has to come out and separate them, right? Doxing is already in gray areas. There's no way you can't say anything about it. I'm just curious now how many VAs they'll recast. All of them together, or just the worst ones and negotiate with the union?
I think the best thing to do would probably to like just get rid of all of the annoyances would be to just recast the entire SAG-AFTRA union. But I think what they'll probably go with is like some sort of compromise where like some of them stay on the project and some of them don't. But it might get to a point where the VAs will have to like leave the union to keep being on the project too because of, you know, the shit that they're doing with Zach Aguilar that we've already seen. So we'll just have to see how it breaks down. You might see a lot of like very popular VAs who haven't even said anything about the situation, right? Think like the Keith Silversteins, the Zhang Li VA. He might just be recast even though he hasn't like really thrown his hat into the ring here. It's yeah, we'll just have to like see how it goes.
What the frick, doxing? Aren't these public figures? Is this something you can really do and say in public? I can't with these people anymore. They need to stop getting high before posting these stuffs.
You need to stop getting high before, yeah, that'll be true.
Now I'm having a stereotype for ENVAs. Wait, is this like a meme? Oh yeah, look at this, a meme from a Billy Bill user. Some professional VA. What was your mission in Shanghai? Freaking Kaylee Mills in the meme beating Jacob Takanashi. SAG-AFTRA in the background just watching with approval. Next section is regarding SAG-AFTRA's quote-unquote encouragement to let union workers join non-union projects. This means something that we discussed earlier in the video. Let's see what the CN community has to say about this one. Come on, do some actual capitalism, would they? This ancient mafia stuff is getting ridiculous.
Even they're saying the same exact shit.
Have you considered, though, that the union is doing exactly the capitalist stuff? They claim they're pressuring Hoyo for workers' rights, but it's all for their own interests. And look at how they're stripping away the non-union VA's opportunities. In the end, all they're doing is bullying the non-union workers and the incompetent companies. And when it's with the bigger companies, they don't even let out a squeak.
Do keep in mind how ironic this statement is coming from China. I do think there's like a thick layer of irony for us to be reading this and being told this by somebody in CN.
The union nowadays is no longer the union that used to actually fight for all workers. Before they had to fight or else they wouldn't even have survived. And now they're living good. And yet now they're trying to prevent others from living good in order to fill up their own pockets.
Yeah.
This is capitalism. Basically, the union right now is also a type of scab.
See, the CN people would know this very well. Actually, yeah.
Scab, my friend.
Yeah, now that you think about it, actually, that's a different point of view. Totally.
This is a syndicate. Have you considered that this is a product of capitalism? Well, this is capitalism. The VAs are just their tools to squeeze. So that's interesting. It seems like some of them are saying this is all the fault of capitalism, but others are saying that this isn't even capitalism. It's actually some like mafia stuff, some syndicate stuff. It's also interesting that as we've seen over the years, even despite SAG-AFTRA itself, a number of English Western voice actors have a tendency of just being extremely toxic people anyways. This reminds me of that Honkai Star Rail Chimera event with that mole Chimera, the one that was planted into our team and left before the final battle. I told you so. The Y is a time turner, lol. I thought this event was only to imply the bad work culture in China. Dang, I didn't realize it applies to this too. Back when I was training for my job, there was a class called Social Engineering, which is basically about commercial espionage/theft. Foreign enterprises had made them into classes like a decade ago. It's time to introduce MiHoYo's 3 holy artifacts to the world. The time machine, the demon revealing mirror, and the boomerang. This union thing is clearly a holy cross moment. Explanation of the 3 artifacts. Time machine. Hoyo's content sometimes can have an unexpected connection with a future event. As Fontaine's Archon Quest and Francis Flood at 2024. The holy cross, but Boy King writing in CN, this technically should be demon revealing mirror. The party in conflict with Hoyo will often have dirt and their true forms will be exposed, just like how a demon disguised as a human will reveal their true form.
This like some, I forget like what the term is, but there's like a special sort of like Chinese, is it like wuxia? It's like WUXIA. Like you guys know that genre, right? Where it's like they have like the swords and shit. It's like yeah, wuxia. This seems like that to me. Fantasy kung fu, yeah. Demon revealing, totally.
And the boomerang. When you attack Hoyo, it will often come back and hit you in the future.
Okay, that's just Australia.
Like Karma, but boomerang. Yeah, the time machine one reminds me of the flooding news after Fontaine's story was released. Some people were complaining about the 4D experience. 4D experience is crazy. SAG, by witness of the $3,000 payment notification. The entrance fee or like the new membership fee.
It costs $3,000 to apply to SAG. They can still reject you. And they can arbitrarily decide who gets to join and who gets rejected, right? It's just up to them. And so if you've wronged them in the past, think about it this way. All of these VAs who are like standing in solidarity of the strike and like striking with SAG, are they doing it just so that they get the brownie points to be able to join SAG later? Or are they doing it because they're scared that if they do apply to SAG in the future, they'll just be rejected regardless because they weren't in support of the strike? That's like another thing that I feel like people have to think about, is that there might be a ton of VAs that like actually know that the cause is bullshit and that it's just to make it union, but they feel pressure to support it because otherwise, if SAG does get their way, only union people can work on the project. And if they don't support SAG, they will never be union and they'll never be able to work on the projects. And so it's basically like you're either with us, and if you're not, you will never be employed again. That's kind of like what it is. And I'm not gonna lie, right? When it's supporting the strike or going homeless, it's one of those things, and those seem like the only options that are feasible. Support the strike or never work again and become homeless or start working at McDonald's. I feel like most people would go one way over the other, right? And people probably aren't going to be putting fries in the bag.
Welcome and declare thee, for you shall ascend into the heaven of high quality VA. Oh my gosh, bro. Commons memeing so hard on that policy thing we read before. What is this? Modern atonement? Cyber atonement, lol. To join the cause, a duty bound, yet rats brand. Is this like a poem? What is this? To join the cause, a duty bound, yet rats brandish claws, their arrogance loud, the hunger for gold hidden in screed, till the terms on roll, revealing true greed. With naive skills and foolish minds, their schemes and screams bared under daylight, the people see through the geis, no need to witness their lies.
Okay, oh, relax, Dr. Seuss.
And Boy King, I think, making this note that says a DeepSeek translation of poem by one of its replies that is pretty good. So my translation is based on this. Theory. To get shipped to Reddit, you must achieve the following conditions. 1. A detailed analysis of each party's actions, Hoyo, VA, SAG. 2. Expose the truth of SAG and their despicable actions. 3. Provide a sharp comment for Paimon VA. That'll definitely get you on there. 4. Create creative use of analogy/language without profanity. What, you're saying I don't fit any of those? No, please let me get shipped too. Here you go, lol. This was really funny, says Boy King. If they kick out Paimon's ENVA, I'll top up 10 $100 bundles, 6480 times 10 primos.
I feel like a lot of EN players would do the same exact thing. I'm not gonna lie, maybe this will come back to bite me in the ass. Yo, I might buy the monthly pass again. I might buy the monthly pass again if they get rid of Paimon's VA. If they actually get rid of all the people doing all this dumbass shit on the VA side in EN, we might buy 12 monthly passes. Hey, the game will get better.
Hoyo, there you go. 1,000.
Hey, I gotta reward Hoyo when they make the game better, right? And I'm gonna be real, replacing Paimon's VA would objectively make the game better. It proved me wrong.
Just from that single person alone right there. We now literally have CN Wales trying to bargain with Hoyo to kick out Paimon. Stuff is freaking hilarious. The next comment reads, this is getting funny. Like, voiceovers aren't a necessity. Why are they so confident? Yeah, that's gotta be a great irony with this. They're trying to, like, strike for their demands, but they also kind of prove that, like, Hoyoverse doesn't need them through their own actions inadvertently.
Do you think that was actually the master plan of Hoyo? They just decided their power move was making all of the characters mute and being like, well, you see, we literally don't actually need you. We literally don't actually need you because all the characters have been mute for over a year and like things are pretty much okay. So yeah, just go fuck yourself.
The next one says, why do you think EN people are so used to character and VA bindings? There's no way there isn't any union influence behind this. Time for American players to start reading subtitles. This is to help them appreciate intonation works too, haha. It won't be that easy. Not all languages are as easy/efficient to subtitle as Chinese.
I thought Chinese was one of the most complicated languages on earth. Maybe I'm like wrong over all the experience I've had, but I've typically heard that Chinese is literally one of the most complicated languages on earth.
Especially this one that reads, as a child main, I have to say that his ENVA Griffin is really good. Yeah, do you know what's crazy about that for any CN people listening? I guess anyone's not familiar. Genshin Twitter/Genshin TikTok here in the West, like EN Genshin Twitter, EN Genshin TikTok, harassed that dude when he was in the hospital.
What did he do?
Covering that years ago. They were mad because they were saying he like posted some some like racist stuff because he used the wrong emoji or something and used like a certain filter. It was crazy, bro. He was like literally posting a picture of him in the hospital, and they were sending him death threats on that post. Yeah, that whole thing was a complete EN Genshin Twitter / Genshin TikTok moment. Extremely pathetic behavior from those people. And lastly, Boy King says, and finally, after days of posting these, I have finally found my first comment that actually supports the VAs. Cheers. Saying, note, this next comment is from a well-known Hoyo hater, which reads, whoever's shipping these comments, can you please stop? There's nothing wrong with friendly CN-EN communication, but why must we do this at the expense of an innocent ENVA worker? Comment saying, innocent? Because they're not innocent. Alright, so that was very fun. Thank you, Boy King, as always, for getting those comments, translating them, and posting them. And let me know what you all think about that stuff, as well as what we went over earlier in the video, too. Hope you enjoyed today's coverage. If you did, please consider liking and or subscribing to the channel. Appreciate ya.
Yeah, I mean, awesome video again, Hero Hey. I just gotta say, when you like look at everything that's going on, when you look at all of the details and how they've been put out, I think it's pretty safe to say that radio silence, just not addressing the matter, trying to sweep it under the rug, was probably the best thing that these VAs could have done. Just take the casting of Jacob Takanashi and just not said a single fucking thing other than a congratulatory message. Like the VAs of Ororon and Fremine, right? They sent him some congrats and that was like pretty much it. And I think it's gotten to the point where it would be much easier for you to find somebody that isn't supporting the strike than somebody that is. At this point, the general consensus, I feel like, across the community is that if you're still supporting the strike, you're kind of just misinformed. People think that you're like you're just being a silly little guy who has no idea what's going on when it comes to the situation, and that's why you're still supporting the strike. Because boy, oh boy, now that we all know that it's pretty much just entirely union bait to, you know, strong arm projects into doing specific things, that all these VAs that were working and, you know, basically talking about the strike were just like Trojan horse viruses sent to like infect projects and like, you know, throw a wrench into their development. It is just absolutely disgusting when you see all the details fully laid out, and boy oh boy, who knows when this saga is going to come to an end. I think with the deletion of all these profiles, the deletion of all this stuff, it's pretty much over. Let me know what you all think. Peace.